The first thing I did after being reincarnated was swallow a stone whole. Furthermore, in a crowded gathering, I forced the woman I loved to swallow a bamboo pet viper, green pet viper, alive! Everyone thought I was crazy. However, they didn't know that in less than a minute, creatures all over the world would be mutated into deformed mutton. All humans would acquire supernatural talents based on the food they ate just before this transformation. In my previous life, before the disaster struck, I ate a forest of mutton and sheep meat, which gave me the talent to grow long hair. Initially, this ability to create wool using my mental power was useful in bad weather. But as the deformed demons grew stronger, I truly became a helpless sheep vulnerable to slaughter. After being reincarnated into this life, I had already made full preparations. In a previous life, I had seen a giant dog with the power of Pangu, a mutated dog raised by the owner of an antique shop in the south of the city. Out of curiosity and coincidence, I learned from the owner that the dog had accidentally swallowed a jade stone while rescuing him. My first task after returning was to find that shop in the south of the city. I used all my savings to buy the stone from there. As for why I forced Xiao Wanrou to swallow her pet snake, it was because my classmate Xiao Wanrou truly loved me. In a previous life, she'd remained by my side even when disaster struck. She had acquired the ice and snow talent, which was enough to keep her safe in this hellish world, yet she followed me with complete devotion and protected a mere human. Ultimately, my burden led us both to a tragic end. Now, after reincarnation, I naturally wanted to help her acquire an even more powerful talent. In her previous life, Xiao Wanrou's pet snake had become a Xiaolong flood dragon under the influence of mutation. If it hadn't lost the fight with the antique shop's guard dog, it had a high chance of becoming a 5-clawed golden dragon or 5-float divine dragon in the future. The condition of swallowing it raw was because from past life experiences, humans knew that swallowing it raw had the best effect on the talent. If my Dragon 1 Jade could be cut with human strength, I wanted Xiao Wanrou to eat a portion of it. But now, even a head-down jewel was far superior to Xiao Wanrou's ice talent from her previous life. Facing my stubbornness at this moment, Xiao Wanrou's face wore a complex expression. On one side was the boy she had loved for years, and on the other, her beloved pet. Her mind was filled with confusion. But seeing my unwavering attitude, she made a decision. Sorry, little king, I'd do anything for him. Xiao Wanrou quickly grabbed the snake and swallowed it like noodles in front of the entire class. Seeing Xiao Wanrou's crazy behavior with me, the entire class was so stunned they couldn't utter a word. Only cries of terror came out. They thought they were going crazy themselves. It was only when Xiao Wanrou ran to the water protector and frantically drinking several glasses of water began vomiting against the wall. Only then did the class come to its senses. Damn, Xiao Wanrou, are you serious? Have you gone mad? She said. And you really ate it? I must be dreaming. Why am I seeing such a strange sight? The teacher couldn't even recover from her dream, completely unable to understand the youngster's thoughts. Amidst the commotion, Xiao Wanrou approached. She looked like an angel at the moment, but her beautiful face had turned pale. A few strands of hair stuck to her forehead from the sweat caused by the pain. She looked incredibly fragile and kind. Enduring the pain in her stomach, I held her in my arms. I did it! Shano cried out in pain and put her arms around my waist. I caressed her pale face. Blood oozed from her mouth as she spoke. The sight terrified the teacher, who immediately called an ambulance. Meanwhile, in the class, villager Junao, who had long been pursuing Xiao Wanren and had been rejected repeatedly, was seething with rage. He was a tall, muscular boy with a strong body. He strode straight towards me with heavy strides. Changing, you deserve to die. You know she likes you. Yet you forced her to eat a snake. His roar was like a thunderclap, sending shivers through the class. But I didn't even look at him. I just continued to hug Xiao Wanren, feeling even weaker, and checked the time on my phone screen. Villager Junao pushed through the crowd and rushed towards me. I held the Xia monkeys and began to count quietly. Even when I saw Gaon Junao approaching, I didn't move. Suddenly, a powerful flash of energy erupted. It was so bright it blinded almost everyone. The sight lasted only a moment and then vanished. Gaon Junao, who was approaching, stumbled and fell heavily to the ground in the darkness that enveloped his vision. Following that bright light, an invisible electromagnetic storm spread across the entire solar system in a matter of seconds. Everyone inadvertently looked out the window but saw nothing. Most people returned to their seats thinking it was nothing. Only a few began searching for information online, only to discover that their phone signal had completely disappeared. Gaon Junao rose from the ground and charged towards me angrily. Today, I will teach you apes a lesson. His words carried a murderous tone. The 3.9-meter tall Gaon Junao's muscles were clearly visible. All the students were silently praying for me. But as his massive fist flew towards me, a strange phenomenon occurred. In the blink of an eye, light turned to darkness. Blood-red light poured from the sky. The solar storm had disrupted the magnetic field, turning the sky a terrifying color. As soon as this strange spectacle began, the dark apes in my arms let out a heart-rending scream. Everyone looked at him and saw that the snake-devouring dark ape's appearance had completely changed. Two dragon horns sprouted from his head, sparkling with silvery lightning. Blue-white scales appeared on the sides of his face. A small dragon's form draped from his back to his shoulders, and his white robe now resembled impenetrable armor. A faint blue-white light emanated from his body, clearly highlighting the outline of his graceful figure. Behind him was a blue-white dragon's tail slowly swaying like a celestial maiden from a TV series. This transformation immediately awakened many new feelings in the dark monkey's mind. Now the wise Shala began to vaguely understand why I had asked her to swallow that snake. It was entirely for her own good. The girl, already devoted to me, naturally could no longer tolerate anyone daring to challenge me. She stood before me. She simply extended her palm and easily blocked Gao Junao's massive punch. The punch had no effect, but upon striking Gao Junao's palm, the layer of destructive lightning exterminating thunder embedded in Gao Junao's armor severely burned. Gao Junao screamed in pain. He clutched his scorched and blackened right hand tightly, from which smoke billowed. Enduring the intense pain, he frantically searched for water to pour on his hand. Meanwhile, the scales on Xiaowanrou's face slowly disappeared beneath her skin, and the horns on her head also retracted, returning her to her normal form. She looked at me expectantly, as if seeking praise. But at this moment, I didn't seem to have changed outwardly. Xiaowanrou clearly felt her soul tremble as she stood before me. It was like the fear a small creature feels before the infinite power of nature. A fear that comes from deep within her genes. She guessed that, as I said earlier, I had also swallowed something. Xiaowanrou didn't know what it was, but the feeling of devotion that arose in her mind and body deepened her love for me. She didn't know how I knew all this, but she knew I would never harm her. His current power was given by me. Just then, a rainbow light shone in from outside the window, growing brighter and brighter, illuminating the dark night like a burning red day. Almost instantly, the screams from the village of Junaf suddenly ceased. After a moment of silence, a series of screams echoed through the classroom. Those who were unable to comprehend the situation began to scream in terror at the strange light. In an instant, chaos erupted. Then the rainbow light vanished, and a huge, fish-like body filled with bones like a mass of flesh appeared in the middle of the classroom. Two people were crushed beneath the massive figure, their flesh badly crushed. The others, seeing this, fell to the ground in fear and stared, trembling at the two terrified bodies. Hewing sounds were coming from the terrifying giant figure. Among the rest of the crowd, several other strange figures mingled. They were small, ghost-like monkeys. Some were twisted like worms, others were as agile as wolves. But they all had one thing in common. Their skin resembled torn flesh, and they looked terrifying like devils from hell. They stalked the normal students in the class. With their sharp weapons and teeth, they would tear anyone they caught in half and begin to devour their flesh. The class, which had previously been a chaos of thought, had now become a slaughterhouse that resembled hell. Class monitor Zhang Ya watched blankly. He couldn't understand what had happened. How had the entire world changed so drastically after the two flashes of light? He didn't know that the light and the electromagnetic storm concealed a strange power. The combination of these two created the deformity mutation. Only those whose minds were strong enough to withstand the erosion of this strange power could acquire supernatural abilities based on the external objects within their body's base. This is called the Mimic Divine Weapon. Village Junao was clearly not strong-minded. Even as he lay numb, he couldn't resist the effects of the strange damage. Violent, strange energy rapidly spread to every corner of his body. Blood vessels rippled beneath his skin, bulging and tightening. His normal skin became soaked in blood as the tiny veins tightened. In just a couple of seconds, Village Junao's body shrank in half. He was completely covered in blood and no longer looked human. In a matter of moments, his body twisted into a posture impossible for humans, as if twisted by a rope. With a sharp twist, sharp bird-like claws emerged from his feet, and with a deafening scream of a bird of prey, the distorted Village Junao pounced on the girl in the pit in front of him. His speed was so swift that he saw only a blurred shadow, and in the blink of an eye, he tore the girl in two with his claws. Nearby, the crater monitor Zhang Ya recoiled in fear. I watched the bird-like creature from the corpses. My pupils narrowed. It was the Blood Moon Demon Bird. But how did this deformed demon from the village emerge? In my previous life, I was on vacation that day and didn't come to school. Therefore, I hadn't witnessed this horrific scene. With experience in 2 lifetimes, I knew about the various types of demons born after deformation. This bird-like demon from the village of Junao is called the Blood Moon Demon Bird. Although it is just a demon, its speed is extremely fast and its claws are as sharp as knives. In the early stages of deformation, it is one of the most violent and deadly demons. Even if early humans survived the mutation stage and activated their powers, they needed time to understand their powers. They needed towers. In the face of the Blood Moon Demon Bird's terrifying speed, they could be killed before they could even use them. Only those with top-level talent and quick understanding of the situation could survive. For an ordinary human, facing this bird would have meant becoming its prey. Especially now, when the lights had gone out and only darkness with a faint red glow remained. Blood Moon Demon Bird's owl-like features made it even more dangerous in the dark. In my previous life, when my powers awakened, I couldn't control them properly, and the neighbors, mistaking me for a demon, threw me out of the building. If the black monkeys hadn't found me immediately after the disaster, I might have died outside. But staying home was the reason I was able to escape this demon bird. This made me understand why, in my previous life, hardly any student in our class had made it out of school alive. These thoughts ran through my mind, and I watched the demon bird warily. I immediately tried to awaken the divine powers within me. Then a glimpse of my own talent surfaced in my mind. My eyes lit up. Blood Moon Demon Bakshi, today I will test my mettle on you. I stamped my foot on the ground, and a golden light suddenly erupted from my body. A mask resembling a black gold flying fish appeared on my head, covering my face. Golden threads fluttered like flames at the back of my head. Layers of gleaming black gold armor resembling dragon scales covered my entire body. These layers of armor made my already tall frame even more powerful and imposing. Waves of blue and purple mystical energy emanated from my back, giving me the appearance of an invincible warrior, a celestial general. As soon as my replica armor, Mimir appeared, the dark monkey standing nearby held their breath and stared at me mesmerized. Their eyes held immense reverence and respect for me. Meanwhile, the students who had transformed into demons, as if terrified by this divine power, began to rush at me in unison. The closest thing to me was the huge fish-like monster, the fish monster. His 3-4 meter tall body now seemed clumsy and sluggish in front of my armored form. But as soon as my gaze fell upon him, perhaps his fading human memories were awakened, instilling an unearthly fear within him. The ugly and deformed monster went mad with rage and roared straight towards me. Seeing this, the dark apes rushed forward and tried to use their powers, but I extended my hand to stop him. The next moment, the dark apes saw me running towards the huge fish monster with great strides. In the blink of an eye, we, a giant and a small shadow, collided. A wave of invisible energy exploded in the air, and the ground beneath our feet cracked with a powerful impact. Although I had grown to about 2 meters tall after wearing the armor, I still looked like a child in front of that 4 meter tall monster. The difference in height and weight was the ground cracked, throwing me off balance, and it felt as if I was losing strength to him. The Blood Moon Demon Bird, created from the Taha village Zhu, standing nearby, was extremely cunning. It sensed the fish demon had the upper hand, so with a shrill scream, it leaped between our embraces. At that very moment, I swung one leg back with a slanted motion and changed my hand position. I used a pulling technique, not a push, and lifted the body of the 4 meter tall fish demon into the air. With all my might, I threw it directly at the demon bird, which was coming to attack us from the air. The fish-like demon's huge and ugly body smashed into the wall. Seeing this, the Blood Moon Demon Bird immediately roared in anger. Just before being crushed by its divine spiritual power, it leaped over the fish demon with its wings. The giant flapped its wings, and the human-like pupils on its face began to rotate as if contemplating something. He realized that he couldn't defeat the man in the black gold armor with his own strength. The so-called demonic bird began to howl loudly. I realized that it wasn't just a roar of anger, but rather that it was using its bloodline power to summon all the partially transformed monsters present there to attack me. Suddenly, the flesh on those alert monsters began to solidify. Their faces became even more terrifying. Several monsters released the flesh in their mouths and pounced on me simultaneously. The bird stealthily flew toward the ceiling. Seizing an opportunity, I clenched my fist with my strong right hand, and the purple aura behind me instantly transformed into a glowing black gold giant axe, the sharp joint axe. Just then, the bird, risking its life, charged at me from above. But I smiled and swung. A massive light emanated from the axe, slicing the demonic bird in half. As soon as I finished, the entire room fell silent. My classmates were stunned, and the other demons also sensed the powerful scent of the Pangu bloodline emanating from my body. They all stopped and stared at me. Without hesitation, I leaped forward and began killing the remaining demons with lightning speed. Within 3 minutes, all the demons in the classroom were cleared. Then, the survivors began clamoring to get out. I stepped to the podium lecture stand with a cold face and said, "Everyone, calm down." Silence fell upon my voice. The apocalypse has arrived. There are demons everywhere. If you want to survive, obey me. I just finished speaking when a massive hellhound appeared outside the door. The hellhound bared its fangs, its tongue lolling, and peeked inside. Its low growl echoed through the room. Meanwhile, a girl in the crowd screamed in fear, causing the dog to become even more violent. I fixed my gaze on it. In a previous life, this dog had evolved by hunting in the school, becoming the 3-headed hellhound, the 3-headed dog of hell, and had become the king of hell and had become the king of the... Then Shawanru's divine lightning, exorcising lightning, scorched him, driving him even madder. He spewed black smoke, reducing tables and chairs to ashes. Seeing that he hadn't died from the lightning, I took charge. I threw my axe at him, and like a wild bull, I smashed into him, knocking him to the ground, knocking him to the monkeys immediately gave me a weapon, and without wasting any time, I slashed his neck. I ripped open his body and extracted a white crystal called the Lingjing Spiritual Crystal. By absorbing it, Warrior Awakener superhumans can enhance their power. In a previous life, Wanru had never left my side, so I gave him this precious crystal. He placed it near his eyebrows and absorbed it, raising his power to the 2nd tier, level 2. Then I went to the girl whose scream had summoned the dog. Without mercy, I severed her head in one stroke. Only a dozen people were left. Just then, more screams came from outside. I knew the school's demons were forming a swarm. I immediately ordered the door closed and everyone to close the doors and windows. Just then, the class beauty, Zhou Jiyan, Qin Xiao Qingqian, saw her friend die outside and, overcome with compassion, tried to open the door. I held her hand tightly. "Do you want us all to die with her?" I asked in a nice cold voice. She said angrily, "Chanji, how can you be so heartless?" I smiled and said, "Well, if you think I'm heartless, then become a Messiah Saint yourself." I activated my armor, mimic armor, opened the door, and pushed her out. As soon as she came out, she panicked and started banging on the door. "Chanji, take me in," but the hungry demons outside surrounded her. Everyone inside was terrified and the sounds of her being devoured could be heard. I stood vigilant behind the door. If a monster came in, I would risk my life to get Wanru out of here safely.